Good day and welcome to the Strong Ambition Podcast. I'm your host, Rhyland, and let's dive into another solo cast. I'm going to give you a little bodybuilding update, but more importantly, I'm going to give you some lessons that I've already had, some big changes that I've made from last time, and how it's working out tremendously better, and how you can actually take some more tangible ones that you can apply to your own fat loss and your own training. And I have some five big ones. So we'll dive into this, and I think you're going to really enjoy it because these are some really helpful lessons I wish I knew 4 years ago. So let's dive right into it. The very first one here, I need to really have to amplify this. My Fitbit has been one of the best gifts my girlfriend ever got me because, step counting and just walking versus cardio has been a game changer. So basically, formally, what I used to do was just cardio, right? So you go about your day, you do your training 5, 6 days a week, and you try to just do extra cardio to burn more calories. And inherently would if your output during your day, your daily job is very consistent and your training is very consistent, and then that would be more calorie output. But especially the traditional model was just making sure you could hit 30 to 45 minutes of some sort of an incline walk. That's what I did last time. And you hit the incline somewhere around 8 to 10%, maybe even 12% if you're crazy. For the incline, 2.8 to about 3.2 miles per hour. But to get you in kind of a heart rate zone of anywhere from 120 beats to 140 beats per minute. Now, this is still predominantly fat. This is always on those old machines, the fat burning zone. So it made a lot of sense. And it does burn more calories. The thing that makes it really efficient is that you're burning predominantly calories and it is a low impact activity. So if you did like the elliptical is actually another really good one where it's low impact and you just don't want to beat up your joints, especially because you want to spare any of your extra strength and stuff like that for strength training. And in bodybuilding or even in lifestyle, those can inherently work and they have worked for people. It's not fun, but there's also issues within that model. And when you look at just using the step count in outdoor walking more predominantly, it can get you a lot of that. So the very first thing is that when you're looking at kind of like just doing the incline walking, you're going to be you're literally on an incline and you're kind of going you're we're working, but it's actually like I say, it's good zone two cardio. It is very efficient at burning calories in a shorter amount of time. You can burn really like around 10 calories a minute, which is 100 calories, 10 calories a minute. I'm thinking like 10 calories a minute, I think is right. Yeah, because it's 100 calories every 10 minutes. It's which is really efficient. And versus walking is near half, just outdoor walking. But the downside is, even though it is about 60% fat, you're still using some carbs in concerted effort, and it does tire you out. Elliptical is a little better. We're going to be low impact and you get your heart rate, and it might feel a little bit easier. But what's interesting is when I've gone into that kind of underneath 110 beats per minute, it's not as efficient. I'm not burning as calories fast, but I'm doing a lot more output and it does not seem to tax me as much because I want to save, even though 60% of those carbs or 60% of the calories are coming from fats in that walk, 40% is still carbs. And those carbs are precious, precious resources for my strength training when I'm in a calorie deficit that is modestly restrictive. It's not crazy restrictive right now, but modestly. It is really important that I give all of those for mainly strength training. And so with this new kind of model of what I'm doing is I'm just trying to hit a minimum of 14K steps a day. Usually ends up being an average of over 15K steps. And sometimes I hit 17K steps, sometimes 20K, because I'm tracking my overall activity in life. It's not just the cardio, which is also really important in the event that you wouldn't do as much in a day. So it's like I say, you go about your day. Well, my day varies. Some days I have nothing that's outside of my apartment unless I go to the gym, like today and tomorrow. And so if I don't have to go and do something physical, I'm not physical. And so, other than my training or additional cardio, I'm not physical, which is actually a downside. So, even if I did that 45 minutes, it might only bring me up to about a walk like that would take me up to about 5K steps, which is a solid amount of steps. But if I don't do anything else, I'm still a low output. So not only is it better for consistency, it's easier on the overall. The other ease is just joint stress. Whenever you do the same thing, repetitive motion for a long period of time in these cardio gears, like elliptical is probably one of the most forgiving, but it's still a fixed position on your ankle and you're not really using your foot. Not inherently always healthy. And I know biking, my knee just couldn't take. My knee has had an issue for a couple of years now, and I just couldn't tolerate it anymore. Incline walking is a very fixed angle position. And again, the knee can take it or leave it, especially if it's an everyday thing. However, walking on solid ground is a normal mechanical movement for the body. Treadmill is different because you're kind of the ground's moving, so you're more so keeping yourself up and then over versus me actually pushing myself forward. My body can actually just naturally guide that mechanic a little easier, and it's always felt easier on my knee. So easier on joint stress. Like you got to remember evolutionarily, like if they look at hunter-gatherer tribes, they walk 5 to 7 miles a day, which means we have physical capacity for walking a very long period of time. Next time you're on a vacation, and let's say you're traveling to somewhere where you're sightseeing a lot, I recommend you try to track your steps. Even if you don't got a Fitbit, I think they're a little better. But even if you just look at your phone, I guarantee you're around 15K steps and you're not feeling exhausted, unless people are emotionally exhausting you on your vacation. But not from the step counting. It's just very, very easy to keep a high activity output. And then there's just that ease of life, like walking in life. I can walk with my girlfriend. I've been doing dog walking for over a month. I house sat 4 different families for their dogs. And it was so rewarding because I was always with the dogs and it made it just not me going outside and walking. And it was a responsibility to go do that with the dogs, even to the point where I think the dogs got tired. And so ease of walking in life is also going for groceries. I make sure that I don't do click and collect like I used to. I make sure I go pick up my groceries, even go to the grocery store for one item. It creates some sort of an activity for that walk. Parking farther from your work actually is impactful over time. If you can park 10 minutes, it's actually going to add up a fair bit of steps routinely rather than 2 minutes. And again, these things just aren't hard, right? And that's what we want. We want things in our life that aren't inherently hard that we can do consistently. And I want that too. And so when you think about, I'm in my own fat loss. Now, for me, I'm going very high steps, like 14 to 15K steps a day is quite a bit. I have to walk first thing in the morning. I try to get at least 1 to 2 afternoon walks in and one longer one in the evening. And so overall, I'm trying to add up about 2 hours of walking, but that's not what you really have to do. I would say somewhere near an hour to an hour and a half of walking throughout the day, which your job might include already. But what I recommend is you start with one walk a day. Like just see where your steps are. I think a Fitbit or some sort of a step counter, there's so many cheap ones on Amazon. I recommend it to all my clients is you get an idea because that is your best metabolic tool, in my opinion. Because people always say, I want to boost my metabolism. I want a better metabolism. Okay, find out what it is. Like that is the best way to find out because other than your body weight, that is one of the best indicators to knowing what your metabolism is doing. Because we want to blame the metabolism like it's some sort of magic system within us that, just won't work when really inherently you are your metabolism. It's what you weigh, how much lean body mass you have, what you're physically doing day to day. That's your metabolism. And so if we can get that step count routinely, you start to have an idea, this is my metabolism. I can take ownership over it. Oh, I'm only at 6K steps. What if I did a 10-minute walk in the morning, 10-minute walk at night? I'm at 8K steps. That's actually right around that nice 80-20 principle where you're going to get 80% of the results there. And right there, you're going to be at a good consistent output and you're going to feel way better, especially going outside. I'll tell you, I still hop on the treadmill here and there, but outside, it just clears your mind. It is so much more peaceful. And I recommend you try to get up to 10K, but 8 to 10K is the recommendation for anyone to have a consistent and realistic metabolism. And if you do want to leverage up that fat loss, just look at the steps. I like doing high intensity interval cardio is if you're in a sport. That's what that stuff's for. Don't try to burn more calories from more cardio. or conditioning unless you just love doing it, right? Because you want to keep doing it after, right? It's so important that you find that step count that's sustainable for you that you're going to get most of your benefits. The second thing that's been a huge thing for me is the right calorie deficit, protein leveraging, and timeline. So nutritionally, these are the major shifts. So the right calorie deficit, yeah, I've been right around or trying to be just under 2,000 calories a day. Using protein leveraging, which basically means more than my body weight in protein. I'm around 250 grams on average, actually probably closer to 260, but at least 250. And timeline, just meaning like giving myself more than enough time. Because last time I did a bit of an impromptu bodybuilding cut last time, and I had literally done a building phase this time. And with the right calories, and I'll also mention that I'm windowed eating still, and my coach AJ has not refuted it. So until he refutes it, I'm going to keep doing it because these meals are very satiating to me. But one of the major things is with the right calorie deficit, you can go very long in a calorie deficit. And actually, even with how much I've been caught up in diet breaks over the last year, like I am impressed with how easy this calorie deficit has been, just being consistent with it and just making sure I do it. Now, 250 to 260 grams of protein itself probably has a big impact on it for the protein leveraging because protein, highest thermal effective food, but it's just so satiating. So when I'm having a bowl, for example, I had a bowl of veggies, cooked veggies, high fiber, low carbs, a little bit of rice, about 100 grams, and then like 9 ounces of Eye of Round. Like that's a lot of meat in a bowl. And I legitimately left that meal feeling like, wow, this is a lot of food. And I'm in a deficit. I have some days I'm hungry based on my activity level, but it's only really been happening the last few weeks or last couple of weeks as I get a little bit more depleted from the workouts. Because what I'm essentially trying to do with my calorie deficit is I'm trying to walk the line of optimal or, just enough. For most people, they need to find the right deficit, absolutely. Because if you're in too aggressive of a deficit, okay, so this is what I did last time. I was around 16 to 1700 calories. And this is something I may have to do close to the show just to do any fat loss I can as fast as I can. But this is something I've seen people do. I've even had clients do without my permission. And I explained to them what the body does is the body really knows that you are under the BMR or the RMR, which is the resting metabolic rate, the baseline of calories required to keep you alive. When your body senses, hey, we're not even getting this amount, and I'm not kidding you, your body will recognize it. Even though it might just, to me, it's kind of funny because it seems like a number that we put to it, but it's like it just makes sense that a body would know how much it needs just to keep you alive in a room. And if you eat under that, it's going to be in a panic state. If you do under that for a long period of time, that is, you can handle it for at least a day or two. People fast for a day or two and they feel okay. But once you start to continue to deplete, especially depleting your muscle glycogen, your muscle store of sugar, and liver glycogen, that's when things get really chintzy. So what really happens is your body says, okay, we are in a food scarcity zone here because you might be giving me protein, a little bit of fat, a little bit of carb, but we're not doing good. Like we're under what we need just to sustain this lean muscle tissue. I think you got to slow down, man. I don't think we can run fast at this rate. And that's really what your body does. When you talk about metabolic adaptation, your body is worried about sustaining what you're doing. And so it even knows your diet's unsustainable. So if you're in a calorie deficit and you're like, man, I'm so tired all the time. And especially if you look up your metabolic rate and it's under your BMR, not sustainable, right? Your body knows it. So what happens? The metabolic adaptation is essentially going to be that your body's going to slow down neat. It might even slow down your BMR and RMR, like your resting metabolic rate, by making you not able to recover as much. But for sure, they've seen this within studies that they track neat non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is your unconscious movement. So as I move my head around, I'm waving my hands as I'm talking to people, that's going to slow down. And I'm going to not want to move as much. Someone's going to ask me to do something. I'm going to look at them really slowly. And so that's really like just these unconscious level of activity and overall energy to go about your day. Hey, do you want to come do this? Yeah, me with calories, me and low calories. Hey, you want to do this? No, that's where you're getting that neat and just conscious level of. I remember my last show. At one point, I had one of my social media coordinators, and he was recording me for a commercial, and we had to retake, I think, a video like 3 or 4 times because I just couldn't smile and I didn't know it. And I would do my speech and I'm like, I look miserable. Let's do it again. And I did it again. And then it was like a kind of smile. And again, my body was just trying to probably save energy. Maybe it was moody, but probably save energy and not waste it on the muscles that required for smiling. Now, on the good note, what you do want to do is you want to do the right amount. You want to do an amount so that you can show up for your training, you can show up for your day, you can show up for your life. Even for myself, that's what I'm doing. I do not want this diet to really be the reason why I can't show up for my job until it's like the last maybe 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even closer to that. But realistically, the only reason why I should have that metabolic adaptation is due to the reduction of body fat so low that my body needs to slow me down, not due to the diet. Because realistically, that's not really what I want my body to get to, or sorry, that's not what my diet should be doing. It's one thing for my body to get so lean because I'm doing a bodybuilding prep. It gets so lean that it literally has to find a way to adapt, which is actually in the bodybuilding terms a really good thing because I've gotten so lean that I'm at a dangerous level of lean. I know how that sounds. It's a competition. We're literally competing. All competition is inherently unhealthy. But the idea is to get so lean that it is just you're walking the line of health. That's the whole idea of bodybuilding, right? Walk the line of health. And if I can do that, then I've done my job really well. But it should be done because my body fat percentage is so low. If I'm doing it simply because I have too low of calories too soon, I'm actually going to shoot myself in the foot based on all that stuff I just said about non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I will start to slow down. I will start to have bad workouts. I will start to drag my ass in my job and just literally drag my ass to try to burn calories. So ironically, even though I would be trying to speed up my fat loss, I could slow it down. I might still actually hit my, 14, 15K. Take me a lot longer to do it. And I probably wouldn't burn many. Like, even though I'm doing 14, 15K, how fast I do it, how intense I do it, still does kind of matter. And there's just other safeguards. The body's going to slow me down. And I want it to slow me down the far end, the farthest end possible. Right. So even right now, what I'm planning on is trying to pick the right time for a refeed because I'm getting close to feeling a need to refeed. Going to be meeting with my coach shortly here, and we're going to determine if I'm ready for one. And it's basically just to restore my muscle glycogen because I am walking the line of appropriate where I probably wouldn't get someone my body weight and size to have that many calories for too long. I would do a little bit more, but I honestly have been walking the line quite well. I've been feeling pretty darn good, hungry some days, then it goes away. And so for the most part, that's what you want. What I really recommend, this is the take home lesson for you because I'm walking on a line a little bit tighter than you should. But to still find the right calorie deficit is important for you because you want enough of a calorie deficit where you see results like you do. Like I've, bounced back and forth with this as far as how aggressive you want a person to go to not go. I think you want to see results, right? But you don't want that metabolic attack. You do not want to strain yourself. So, what I recommend you do is you look up your BMR through the Harris Benedict equations, very easy one that you can find online. And then what you do to find out your TDE, which is your total energy daily expenditure. And when you do that, you actually put in sedentary. Okay. So even if you say, but I work out though, but I'm active, unless you're extremely active, like, say a carpenter or something like that. I have a client's carpenter. I raise his expectation for energy output to a higher amount. But most of my clients, I just put the sedentary, maybe even just a bit below sedentary. But we make sure that's above BMR, but it's below enough where we're getting a minimum of 500 calorie deficit, and if not more. Because if you're doing, again, more steps and all these things, training, it's more calorie burn, but it's not crazy intense. So you should be able to sustain it. And then make sure that it works. So I get all my clients to do these 2 week tests. You do test those calories with the right protein, body weight and protein for 2 weeks straight and weigh yourself every morning, and you'll start seeing the results. That was another big thing for me. It's like just weighing myself throughout this whole process. I wasn't doing that as much. And I was kind of guessing how my progress was, seeing AJ for skin folds every 10 days and just weighing myself. And, that's been huge because I just know where my success is going. So from there, we got the training, or sorry, we got the nutrition, we got the cardio, and now the next one is the strength training itself. Finding just the right volume. And this was a question I had posed a while ago to AJ on my podcast. And it dawned on me when I was actually going to train for a show in 21, I believe, 2021. It was after it was kind of in between lockdowns, right? So there was maybe going to be a show, maybe not a show, maybe a show. And so they moved the goalpost a couple times on this Van Dyke Classic. And I was, in essence, preparing to do one. And honestly, it was a good thing I didn't, because I was still not prepared. I still didn't have the right direction and tools at the time. But what was interesting about it was that when I was preparing at that point, it was like starting to dawn on me, like, why? Because I was learning about volume. I was learning about like the necessity for volume, and learning that when you're in a fat loss phase, you're not trying to build muscle, you're trying to sustain muscle. And when I'm doing all this volume, I'm like, why am I doing 4 sets of everything? Why am I doing 4 hard sets of squats? Why am I doing 4 hard sets of lunges? Like, I did my build. Like, I'm not getting much bigger. I'm not going to get bigger from this deficit. Started to really poke around that question for a few people. And some people will still say, and I think it's still somewhat debated, that you need to have the same stress and adaptation you had to gain the muscle to sustain the muscle. And I think it's a good argument at the far end when you're looking at bodybuilding. And I think you could somewhat make an argument for high level competitors that they need to be, but at the same time, they have high level competitors with anabolics. They have that advantage. And what I really try to find instead is the right amount of volume that I can recover from, that's hitting all the body parts that I need. And, I did so much high volume too, it would also deplete the muscle glycogen, which is, your muscle stores sugars. I mentioned you don't want to do that with your cardio or your walking. So even in strength training, if, let's say, for example, just to give you the whole premise here of like sets. So I do in like 4 hard sets, because you can do like bench press, for example. I could do a ramp up set. I did it today. I did like a light set, and then another light set. And then I actually only did one because of a deal. But let's say I did 4, because I did 2 ramp up that weren't really concerted effort reps. And then I did 4 really hard sets. And after, I'm just smoked. But realistically, because I'm in a fat loss, because I'm in low calories, the second set or third set, or for sure the fourth set, did not do much of anything. And if anything, I not only used up more of my carbs, used up more of my energy, I'm actually going to have a hard time recovering. So you want to have the right amount of volume to just make sure you maintain it. And then you want to make sure you recover from it. One of the things that I think really has been the biggest lesson for me in strength training in this past year already, I would say in the last 6 months, is understanding effective reps and mechanical tension. So essentially, mechanical tension is, and I'll try to make this more layman's terms for anyone listening, is I hear like people really over describe it, but it's when you have to slow down the weight, not because you want to, but because you're just gassing out, right? So it's that near that failure point. Now, we don't have to go into all the context of like how hard you go, like, when you go in a squat or you're going into a bicep curl, like how close you go to failure. But just understand that is the most important stimulus for all hypertrophy. So it doesn't matter if it's, 5 reps or if it's 40 reps. In the last 5 reps of any set, if it slows down, if the muscle has to slow down, so you did that 5 reps, and all 5 reps you have a hard time and it's going slower and slower every time, or you're doing 40 reps and the last 5 reps of the 40 reps makes you slow down, they comparably, meaning they both grow similarly in studies for hypertrophy and size. So that's kind of a really cool thing, that there's not this ideal rep range. There's an ideal stimulus towards how hard you push the muscle. And a lot of people look at sets near failure per week, but now I'm hearing more people even talk about just track the effective reps. Just track in that bench press example, what if you're really efficient at finding it? What if you're really efficient at, like, I found my effective reps within the first 2 sets. And then if I did that third set, or if I did that fourth set, maybe it was just junk volume being that it didn't add to a hypertrophy stimulus. Now, in my building phase, right before I was doing the prep, so my building phase, I didn't really take that into context a ton, but I made sure I was hitting mechanical tension. I didn't really track the effective reps as much. But in the more recent training, I've been really seeking it out. I've been finding it. I've been trying to focus on the muscle. And that's why bodybuilders tend to go slower, because they're trying to find the muscle and they want to exhaust that muscle. And I can't believe how efficient these workouts are, because I can just hit 2 sets that are hard. I can hit one hard set and I can get the stimulus that I want. Because what I'm really trying to do, as I mentioned, is maintain. I want to see, I still do some progressive. I want to see some challenge. I want to see, a pump, all these things. But really, it's a matter of how many. I still take the notion of how many sets near failure per week for a muscle group, but I'm failure per week. What I'm really focused on is the set that I push is, man, that was fucking hard to push hard, and I want to achieve at least 3 or 4 of those. And I don't have to hit complete failure, because if I'm in a calorie deficit, I'm probably not going to recover very well. Last week, I could not believe, by the end of the week, by Saturday, I finished my week and I was sore all over and I was just not recovering. But it was good training. And I literally had to do a deload by Sunday. I'm also set up in a way where currently I'm doing hamstrings and back 3 times a week. And then I had hamstrings and back again, and they were just not ready to train, which means I went too hard, because it wasn't going to get the stimulus. So what I'm focused on is finding the effective reps. And that's what I want you to do. If you're in a fat loss or build phase, it's something I always tell people is prep, practice, push. You always want to have a prep set, but your really effective sets where you're like concerted effort, I'm trying so hard and I'm pushing, and like the muscle is actually forcing me to slow down. That's how you target growth. And one of the big things there is, like, track the progression from that, whether it's weight or sets or both, like any of those things. Like you can really track it each week. And so what I was doing was I would have like 1 or 2 sets like that. Then the next week I'd add another set, and I would add a little weight. And then again, you check your recovery, you make sure you recover. Now, if it gives you a stimulus, you actually might not even need to put more weight on. You could probably just do the same thing if it's still giving you a good stimulus of feeling a little bit sore, you're feeling in the right target muscle and those kind of things. And then, after 3 to 4 weeks, ideally you do ramp up. Like, you give yourself a runway to ramp up. So you have not many sets, you push it, you find the mechanical tension zone of effective reps, but you give yourself a runway, whether it's in sets or weight or effective reps. Next week, plan on adding a set and plan on adding a little bit of weight. And then in the third week, more effective reps. You don't have to do more sets, but you can. And then again, just possibly more weight if it feels appropriate. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, you got to deload. And deload would mean, like, don't hit any effective reps, but almost. And then repeat. And one of the other things that has been a big change for me just in this last year, ever since my building phase, is do more of the shit that you do well. Like it's so important that you get that mind and muscle connection if you want to build. I have a really good mind and muscle connection with bench press. I didn't take it out of my program. It doesn't tax me too much, and I make sure that I'm really focused on the chest, but it's good mind and muscle. I have very specific biceps and side raises for my shoulders because I get good connection to those muscles. So doing the more of the same is not a bad thing if it's a good thing, right? So don't be afraid to do that. And maybe after every 2 phases, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, then I would consider changing up some of the variations. So those were some big ones on the training. Now, from there, the next big lesson, and this might sound a little bit obvious, but I think people underestimate maybe what it is to really dive all into something. And it is just that being all in. So when I was in my very first bodybuilding show, I was in it. I wouldn't say I was all in it, but I was in it. And I committed to 45 minutes of cardio every morning, did the diet 99% of the way. I was so good. I'll explain the 1% after, but I was so good on my diet and was very committed. I would say for the first show, I wanted to train to compete. I didn't do a build phase. I just wanted to get this fear over with of this restrictive diet for, 3 to 4 months. I was about 13 or 14 weeks is what the first show ended up being. And I just want to say I did it. I really did. But I also felt like a bit egotistical in the sense that I thought my natural size wouldn't get me far enough, but it was an unnatural show. So I got humbled on that. And I massively underestimated how important the posing was. The posing seemed so simple and it seemed dumb. I lacked just showing up for that routinely to see what the art form really is about. And so I looked like, a deer in the headlights. I literally looked like I didn't know what I was doing up there. Not to mention, I bought all these photos for because they take photos of you on the photo shoot, and I didn't release very many of them because 99% of them it looks like I'm trying to take a dump. I didn't smile in any of my photos on the stage, and I didn't know how to pose. Like you got to like it's literally how do you make your body look symmetrical and have pop, and how do you make it look with nice angles and everything like that. There's an art form to it. And so I lacked that. And then because I would do it, but I just didn't do it enough. And then I lacked accountability to getting coached more. So AJ coached me in the last one, but I wasn't there routinely. I didn't make sure, hey, what should I do here? I would ask him questions, but I wasn't open enough to his direction. I wasn't enough to be like, what should I do with his? Where should I move here? And he supported me, but I should have been more directive on exactly what I should have been doing, even with and this will go into my that 1% of the food, what I should do show day for food and stuff like that, which I had a little mistake. But I lacked pushing the workouts as well. I didn't know the effective reps. I just thought I needed a pump. I thought muscle building was so much more simple. Like, give me a pump, and it's doing something. And there's more nuance to it than that. So this resulted in my biggest competitive disappointment. When I got to that last bodybuilding stage, I was very proud of myself, and it resulted in the biggest disappointment I'd ever had because I'd never worked harder. Even though I said I wasn't all in, I was in it. And just being in it to that degree was fucking exhausting. But I wasn't all in it. I wasn't in the sport of it. I wasn't like, hey, I'm in it to win it. And to be honest, it was a bit of a chatting with AJ about barbells, which basically I had to agree on. I don't need to focus on my quads. It's an asset. I'm good. But I wanted to maintain my strength. I had this idea I'm going to do powerlifting throughout the prep, and then I'll keep it, be a power builder, right? But then he kind of described it really well, and he says, "Well, you're giving yourself an out," and it didn't really dawn on me what he meant by that, but he meant I'm safeguarding my failure. If I don't do everything I'm supposed to do as a bodybuilder, and I didn't do well. I was doing squats, I was doing deadlifts, all that stupid stuff. Yeah, I kind of did it right, and then I finally realized, it's a safeguard for failure, and I'm afraid to say that I went all in and I didn't succeed. But you're better off, knowing that you went all in and gave it your all. On top of which, I think part of it was just appreciating that it's my responsibility to be all in, but I didn't think it was. Initially, when I looked at all the work that's in front of me, the food, the posing, the cardio, the workouts, and the posing definitely suffered the most. Like I would do the food, I do some posing, I did the cardio, I did the workouts, but again, did I push them maximally? Cardio pretty good, but like again, there was better ways to do it. But did I really push the posing? Did I really say I'm in this? I'm trying to win it? Not really. I was kind of hoping that my physique would take me. And with all of that stuff, though, what I had was a bit of a guilt because there was so much work. With all this work to do in the bodybuilding, I'm like, man, like I still got to do work. I still got to make money. I still got to help my business. But then it kind of dawned on me that it kind of is my job right now. Like as a, being an online fitness coach, it's completely my responsibility to shit kick this thing and to win it or to do my very fucking best to try to win it. And so now I'm all in because this is my job. This is my responsibility to lean into my discomfort, to do what I don't want to do. I didn't want to pose. I I even starting again, I knew it was going to be a problem, so I got a posing coach. But even then, I was putting it off. I didn't want to do it. And then I took my posing coach advice. He said, just wake up and do it first thing in the morning, 20, 30 minutes. And I started doing it every morning. I'm like, wow, that was easier. And so, I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to really lean into that discomfort. And it's already shown within me leaning into that posing, being all in. I'm enjoying it more. I do. I actually kind of look forward to getting it done or just accomplishing it. I go in to the bathroom first thing after I weigh myself and I just pose for 30 minutes. I get it done. And it's not easy, by the way. Posing is way harder than it looks. You're going in far end ranges with your shoulders and you're holding in your stomach as much as you can, and it's exhausting. So that's a part of the reason I never liked it. But I'm also starting to see the benefits of posing. I'm starting to see the art form of posing. I'm playing around with my music that I'm going to do for my 1 minute performances, and it's fun. And you can have fun with things when you actually try and care about them. So my level of commitment just had to step up. And I would say for you, for my lesson for you, because I'm hoping to transform all of these tangents into lessons for you that you can take in. And that is to lean into your discomfort and go all in on your commitment and fitness. And I want you to really think about that because I had this conversation with one of my clients who initially, when he was working, he was undeniably all in. He crushed it. Some of the best success I'd seen in a client. And then I asked him again recently, I'm like, are you all in? And he paused. I'm like, and he was about to tell me a story. I'm like, no, no, no. That's the answer. That's okay. That means you're not all in. And, it's not that I'm like trying to encourage people to have unrealistic expectations. That's not what I'm comparing to. I'm not comparing to my posing, my walking, cardio. And I'm not trying to get people to be excessively disciplined. That's not the message here. It's owning the awkwardness of repeating these obstacles that you have to overcome. If anything, it's trying to find the most simplistic and sustainable thing and being all in, but be all in for a very long time because it's not going to be a short game. It's a long game. It's your life. It's a long way to go. And you also it's owning the challenge and being all in. It's like saying, hey, you know what? I really hate weighing and tracking my food. I hate it. Own it. Because here's the thing, it fucking works. Like it's not even a question. It's like, hey, is posing going to help me win? Yeah. Yeah, that's going to fucking help me win. It's not even a question. Does strength training help you maintain muscle mass or build muscle mass? Yeah. And so own the discomfort. Okay, this is the thing I hate doing. I'm going to do it. And if you can do it first, like for example, if you're like, oh man, I'm not sure if I can fit in walks, do it first thing. Like first thing in the morning. And when you get that morning walk habit, I guarantee you will be grateful that you did it every time. And you'll be grateful once you get into that routine to the point where you will always want to do it. Like that's the really cool thing. It's like I now wake up ready to pose because I got over that initial discomfort, right? And the earlier in the day, the better. If you leave certain tasks, any task you leave for at night, it is when you are the least likely to be accountable to it. You can't grow without growing pains, right? You can't become a new person without feeling like oh man, this is weird. This is awkward. I don't really want to do this. How can you grow without challenging it? It's the whole mission of growth is finding new. It's creating new. So it has to be awkward at the start. So own it and own that challenge in becoming the new you. But that's what I mean by being all in. It's like, no matter what, I'm doing this. I think that is a big part of it. That being clear with your mission, and so that way when you look at it, you look back at whatever fitness challenge you have for the next 4 months, just keep it simple. 4 months, who do you want to be in 4 months? And just go all in on that person. Like I'm all in on this person that I'm going to become. That's it, you know? And wouldn't you rather look back at 4 months and say, I'm proud of myself for going all in, even if and this is the truth, even if it doesn't work out. Like I'm going to go all in on this fitness competition. I'm going all in on my bodybuilding. And let's say I get fourth again. Let's say that happens. I'm not mad at myself because if I get fourth of four and I had this posing overarching me, if I had maybe I didn't do enough walking or whatever it is, if something was overarching, it's like, yeah, I should have done more of that. But if they just say, hey, that guy was more shredded than you, this guy was bigger than you. And if he's bigger than me, I literally couldn't have done anything about it for the last 8 months, anyways. So I know if I can control all my controllables next 4 months and I still don't get the perfect result, but I got there, I'm gonna be damn proud of it. And I guarantee you will too. So go all in on your fitness, own your discomfort, and be ready for those growing pains. It's a big part of it. Now, the next part here, with that very, discipline oriented drill sergeant chat, have fun is the next little piece here I have for you. Gotta have fun. You gotta understand how to enjoy things. Now, this is more in line with nutrition. Now, I'd mentioned that 1%. Let me explain what I mean about how I did my last diet for the last show, 99% clean. Like I was strict with everything. I wouldn't say I didn't slightly overdo maybe eating vegetables. Like I'm not kidding. That was where I would eat a little bit more veggies, a little more oats or something. But I wouldn't have any like treat foods, no cookies, nothing, even family gatherings. The only one that ever comes up is Easter. But I was super clean. Believe it or not, I would actually have, I don't want to call them nightmares, but they were dreams where in my dream, I would be, having bread or having a cookie or having cake, and then having all of a sudden this anxious feeling of like, oh my God, I fucked up. Oh my God, I ruined the show. Oh my God, I failed. And I would wake up and go, oh, okay, didn't happen. And so I was good 99% of the way. Let me tell you the 1% story. So this was a huge part of the mistake in not being accountable to coaching and asking AJ, what do I eat the day of the show? I went off this old, idea that I could get away with eating anything that day because it was already done. But digestion is seriously still a big thing. Couple of mistakes. I had a bunch of fibrous food the day before, which I shouldn't before a bodybuilding show, fills you up and kind of bloats you. But the other major thing was I thought the morning of the show, I could wake up and eat chocolate. I thought I was good. I thought I was in the clear, but not really. It's after the initial prejudging because the prejudging, so they judge you in the morning around 8 or 9, maybe 10 o'clock. And then the evening show is all for family. They may judge you on your presentation, but that's only for like 1 or 2 people that might win that presentation. So if you really want to go after that, that's the only time that really matters. But the morning is the most important part of the show. And so you want to go in very light. Like you don't want to have anything in you, want to be able to suck it. And I didn't really realize that. And I woke up. The very first thing I did was I started to do a pump. I at least did a workout. I was so excited to eat chocolate. I already had it in my freezer and I started going after it. And I gotta admit, this was a weird reaction my body had because I would do like a pump and I would eat some chocolate. And I'm literally like, I'm pumping chocolate and I'm like thinking that this is a good thing. But like the way my body reacted to eating chocolate and carbs like that for the first time. Now I had eaten carbs the day before and started to carb up for the competition, but I was like vibrating at one point. I remember driving to to I think I was going to get a tan is what it was because they do the spray tan, and I was like vibrating. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't had sugar like this in so long. I was like just vibrating. It was crazy. Now the so technically I made it almost all the way to the end. That's what I say. I didn't quite cross the finish line clean, but there's something really important there is my body was like that's that vibrating that moment that almost like a breakdown, and I thought I was okay to do it. That's why I did it. It was just a foolish thing. But the really important thing that I learned from that was also just the fact that like shit, man, like you could have a cookie along the way, right? I've learned so much more about appreciating having your treat foods, how to have your treat foods, how to fit in your meal, and this whole cut plan has actually been, hey, if we make it fit the protein and calories, distribute the protein, just like I treat my client, show my clients, like we can enjoy our food. Now, you probably heard me talk about it before, but this is something I'm literally practicing what I preach so much. I used to believe, 100% clean. I think that is the most unhealthy way to do this. I think if I go 100% clean all the way there, when I finally get to eat something, I'm going to fucking go crazy. Like I know I will. I'll binge, I'll yo-yo. I won't properly do it. A reverse diet, which is basically slowly bring your calories back up to maintenance. But this time, I'm going to make sure that I weekly, religiously enjoy my food. And so that's what I've been doing. And it's been awesome. The very first week, I had 7-Eleven cookies, one of my favorite treats to this day. If you haven't tried them, try the chocolate chunk and tell me what you think. My girlfriend, she gave it, I think she said 3.5 out of 5, which is pretty good. And it wasn't that fresh. I think a fresh, you might even like it a little better. But to me, they're some of the best cookies in the world. And but they're very dense, as I actually didn't realize how many calories are in them. This was a really cool experience that I had those cookies. I used to have a binge of these cookies, by the way. My binge used to be at least half a dozen of those, a big bag of M&Ms, maybe the slightly like sometimes it's like the bag that stands on its own big, but one of the bigger bags of peanut M&Ms, and then a brownie from there. That's a minimum. It was a tasty binge, but there was a minimum. That was an easy one for me. And then I finally looked at just one of these cookies is 240, 250 calories. And so I actually had this treat meal one night and it was two of those. Now I had to protein leverage. I had to have it with a protein shake, just pure protein so that it still balances out. And the other meals, I take some of the other energy sources out. So basically, my first meal, usually what you would have is you would have protein distributed through 3 or 4 meals. I'm having 3 meals a day. I'm having around 240 grams of protein, so about 80 grams of protein per meal. And then the rest of the calories I would fill in with fats or carbs. Now, depending on the protein source, it might have fats in it, like eggs, or for my case, even I have round. And so that has some fat in it. And then you could top off with carbs. Now, so what I would have to do, because I'm having this meal that's a bit heavier in the evening, usually I would actually have more calories in the day and a little less at night, but because it was in the evening, what I did was I would just take fewer carbs in the day or a little less fat in the day. And so my first couple meals were around 600 calories. And then the last meal between the protein shake and the cookies, it was 800 calories and it balances. That's the important model for you to understand how I make that work. And you can make any day like that work. The really valuable piece too is that I'm not just eating these cookies and watching TV. I refuse to have a treat meal in front of TV. Like if I'm going to have something that I know is calorie dense and hyper palatable, basically the treat foods, right? The fun foods. The two things they're good at. And, my main premise, protein, energy, micronutrients, and enjoyment. Okay. Those are the things that we need from food. And so what we know they're good at is energy. They give us calories, fats or carbs, and they give us enjoyment. And if you distract yourself while you're trying to eat a joy that's for enjoyment, it can't do its fucking job. I try to compare this, and it really dawns on people pretty quickly. Think you're having an argument or something like that, or even just a regular conversation, having an argument, just a conversation with a significant other. It could be your girlfriend, boyfriend, it could be your even your mom or someone's trying to talk to you, and you're watching TV. Like, are you really getting much out of that TV or conversation? Playing video games and talking to someone. Yeah, mom. Yeah. I can't say how many times I had no recollection of conversations with her. And if you don't have a recollection of either the show or the conversation, food's the same way. And so what was super important for me to do in this time of treat foods is mindful eating. And mindful eating has been a game changer. The intention of this food is to be enjoyed. So give it all of your mind and attention. We've had and so when I've done that, I did that, and it's just the meal is more fulfilling, not filling, fulfilling. There's a difference. So it gives you more mental satiety. It gives you more of a concept of pleasure and experience. I know I would have more cookies if there was more around and I was just going to be filled. The protein shake actually helps substantially for that because there's more water and it physically will actually fill you up better. And I actually found I was not really that much hungry that day. But one day, me and my girlfriend actually had just one cookie, and that left me a little bit more hungry, but again, not bad. But I at least took the time and had that experience of the food. The other major thing was even just sharing that with my girlfriend more often. We had the 7-Eleven cookies together. We had a steak and wine night. We've had cinnamon toast crunch cake. We went to one night where it was I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, Petit Sucre, and this wonderful restaurant that actually was just about serving shared servings. So you share this, you share that, you share this, you share that, and there's like 4-course meal. The last dessert was like a date with like a walnut on it. It's like the smallest things. So it was perfect because it, probably had around 1,000 to 1,500 calories. I protein anchored it, and everything was just small enough, but it was like, hey, what do you think of this? Tell me what you feel about this experience. And the food has an experience, it has a value piece. So, I mean, that's something that I really recommend you do. And you keep watching my Instagram, my stories, and you'll see that I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to make sure that I enjoy this process. I'm eating very mindfully when I do these things, and try to eat mindfully just more often now. If you're watching TV, if you're doing something, you're doing it, you're not giving that food its due, and making sure I truly enjoy. Like, it may even change the food that you would choose, because let's say I was just going to binge food and watch TV. I would probably choose peanut M&Ms, right? That's one of my old ones. Any sort of M&Ms, I really like that way. Fuzzy peaches is another good one. But, and it's really interesting too, is that carbs would be the most beneficial thing for me to have as a treat food. Just carbs. Like, more fats aren't going to help me as much because I have a baseline of fat and I should be okay. But more carbs will actually likely help me a lot more. But the only problem is with like treat foods, like, what is just a carb? Well, candy's the only one, right? And so I thought about, would I mindfully eat fuzzy peaches? Not really. Like, I'm not excited to. So it really kind of tells you that it's just this quick little hit. It's the TikTok of treat foods, right? It's just this quick little hit. If I was distracted watching TV or playing video games and baked and just don't really care, and I'm mindless eating, that's a mindless eating food because it's this quick little hit. It's not going to change. But if I want to really experience food, I want to value the food. I want food with textures. And unfortunately, they usually come with both protein and fat. So it's a little bit more challenging. Although I did come up with the idea, I might have some cereal. I haven't decided yet. That might be one of my treat foods coming up here because it's mostly a lot of carbs. And cereal used to be one of my favorite things, even in my 20s. So, but I really recommend this as a practice you do. So I'm going to challenge you. I challenge you now. Do mindful eating once this week. I recommend you do it once a week. Once a week. You go out and you just say, you know what, I love this cake, or I love these cookies. I love this cinnamon roll. No TV, no distractions, not even music. And you would like almost like just be a foodie about it. Like, what do you like? How's the texture? You can share it with someone. And you sharing it with someone, making sure you talk about the food, experience the food, just makes it so much more worth it, because there are a lot of calories in there. So make the calories worth something to you, right? And it should be worth the enjoyment. So I think that is something to take home. And I look at the way I'm projecting here. My projection is for this cut in the long term. This is only within the first month of the whole progression, but I already feel better. I don't feel deprived. I look forward to my weekly treats. Some like as soon as I've had it, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm good. Let's go consistent again, because I actually get more satiety from the other foods. So I actually like my foods. I love my diet. And so for me to make sure I'm practicing including these other foods, they're not gripping me too much when I have them all of a sudden after the show. And so as close as I can get to the show, I'm going to be having some sort of treat food, even if it's a smaller portion. Like last week, we just had some chocolate chip cookies, I think one each, and that was good. And this week, I think I'm feeling steak, but we'll see. And so, and steak can actually fit the protocol, but it's more to the point. Is just make sure that you look forward to it, you plan it, and you're going to really enjoy it. That's something that I would really encourage you to practice. Now, I did want to actually give a little bit more details as far as how the success of the fat loss is going. Now, for those who are watching this online, I'm going to show you some photos here of the success to date. And it'll be a little bit easier for you to see some of this visually. For those who are listening, I recommend that you check out maybe my Instagram. I posted on there. But I would also recommend that you just, if you want to actually see it physically, there's some before and afters here where I'm going to be comparing back from like, I think this is week 2 of when I started. And we're just going to compare the start of the cut to where I'm at now. And this is the start of the cut right around end of January. And so I was around 215. Like, I mean, the highest weight I had was 219. But that would be like after eating a lot over the weekend, and didn't binge, but I splurged. And so this would have been not long after that, getting into the cut. And then here we're going to see that that was me today. I did that this morning. And so much leaner in the midsection. I pose different. The posing's coming up, but you can see my abs much more clear. But for those who are listening, just know that I went from 215 and I'm 200 pounds, just around almost breaking the 200. Weight goes up and down. It fluctuates, but we're on the right track. 15 pounds of fat loss in about 5 weeks is not too bad. And this next month will be a big one, because I basically just got to keep doing what I'm doing. I just got to keep showing up. And that's what I'm telling you about leaning into discomfort. You got to keep showing up. And then it would be big to see that we can keep this sustainable amount. Like, the amount doesn't have to vary too much. Ideally, we don't have to go too much more aggressive in the diet for a little while. And I still see that fat loss that I want. I'm certain I'm going to be on the trajectory to be leaner than I ever was. I'm hoping that I might even be leaner than I was by the end of next month. Like, realistically, I got 15 pounds of fat loss, and maybe a bit less, but I think around that. If I even get 10 pounds this next month, I'm already going to be near where I was before my last show, which is great. So the leanness is there. And as far as posing, the posing is going great. My coach has been awesome. And so even that's advanced. So I know I'm doing significantly better than I did last time. So I'm really excited. And I hope today's podcast gave you some lessons. I hope you had some good juicy tidbits within there that can be used as tangible lessons for you, because that's what I want. I want you to be able to practice with this. Later on, I'll even do a podcast that warn you and caution you what not to believe about bodybuilding, or not lessons to not take in. But those have been some big changes for me that I think all of them I would continue to apply in the rest of my life as well. And so I hope you learned a lot today. I really appreciate you listening. Please share this so that we can spread the message. You know, someone might find this interesting to learn for their fat loss, for their strength goals. And remember to like, remember to subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review if you think I've earned it, certainly. And just keep listening. Just keep listening to my message. I got a couple really good podcasts in the pipeline setting up here for you. So I'm certainly, hopefully, going to keep giving you great information. I appreciate you listening. I hope I am fueling your ambition and helping you chase it, because it is not about the pursuit of happiness, my friend. It's about that happiness within pursuit. And I'll catch you next time.